Oh, snap. I think we live. I believe we are live. Yes, we are live. Okay. Just hang out now, I guess. Whew. It's always awkward when you just hear by yourself for the first couple seconds. You're like, all right, somebody hop in here. Anybody gonna hop in here? So Instagram and Facebook is down. That's great. So I can't actually share the current live stream, but it's a little unfortunate. I would like to post that on my Instagram for all the wedding peeps. Hopefully this sounds good. If anybody's out there listening right now, y'all let me know if you can hear me. I'm just trying to shoot this to a couple people real quick. And then we'll have this open discussion about working with wedding photographers and how to just overall be better at it, how to make the day flow a little easier. There's a lot of things that I've learned the last 4 years of filming weddings that I think is gonna be great. And so I wanted to make this video because if I scripted it and tried to, it's been a topic of mine that I've been wanting to make for a while, and I never got around to writing a script. And I'm like, you know what? I had a good wedding this weekend, so let's just hop on live and just start. So I got some little notes here that I'll be looking at periodically, and then we'll just I'm gonna try to keep this to around a 10 or 15 minute total live stream. I don't want to have this lasting all day. But yeah, let's just go ahead and do it now. Yeah, I can't get Instagram to work, so that sucks. All right, so y'all know for the most part I am a wedding filmmaker and I love it. I think it's important though when you start filming weddings, at least for me when I first started, one thing that I could not find any help or guidance on was how to mesh well with the photographers. Of course, we're all here to get the shots. We're all here to make sure that we document the wedding day, and we all want to make sure we do the best job at it. Every now and then you do get that creative spark. Maybe you have a couple who is just extremely photogenic and they're making things super easy for you. And they're understanding your directing and things like that. I don't know what that means. It says, see, I don't go live enough to understand these errors. I don't really know what that means, what it's telling me to do. Currently, keyframes are not being sent often enough, which can cause buffering. I don't know what that means. Is everything good on y'all end? Everything good for the people that's watching? I don't really know. Looks fine to me. Okay, back to the topic. We're just gonna roll with it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll try it again, I guess. Or it could be OBS. Hang on a second. Let's see. Oh, I'm good. Okay, cool. Let's get back to it then. Thank you, y'all. Thank you. So essentially, like I was saying, I wanted to make this video and just go over some topics. When I was starting, I couldn't find any help on how to do this, and it took some learning. Honestly, I'm still learning. For the most part, it's easy. Most of the photographers that I work with out here in the Austin area are repetitive. I do tend to work with a lot of the same photographers, which is amazing because we start learning each other's systems, which makes things better. But that's also something that I want to talk about here in a second is your system and how you should go into the wedding with a different mindset. Because in the beginning for me, things were completely different. So let's just start. So initially, you want to have a good, successful wedding shoot and have fun with it. I know you guys, if you've seen the behind the scenes I had that I shared a couple weeks ago, if you haven't, I left that in the description of this live stream. But to have fun to the extent that I like to have fun at my weddings. I genuinely love filming weddings, and that's not something that I hear as often with wedding filmmakers. A lot of the time they say, oh, I'm here to film because the money's great, or it pays the bills, or whatever the case is. And yes, I can agree. You do make a lot of money filming or photographing weddings, but if your heart's not in it, I tell anyone who reaches out to me yo, how should I start filming weddings? If you're not interested in the actual process and the fun that goes into it, I would say just stay away from it, because there's filmmakers and there's so many different niches. I hate when I try to say that word. There's so many different fields you can go in, and so I think it's important to understand if you are willing to film weddings, if you enjoy it, and if you enjoy it, then great, stick with it. If you don't enjoy it, take yourself out of it early. Otherwise, you'll be miserable, and it actually like is shown in your work and your posture and your tone and how you go about your day to day. But anyway, so understanding each person's responsibilities and stress. This is the first topic I think is so important to understand as a filmmaker. And this is something that I didn't know in the beginning, maybe the first 2 years, honestly, of when and how to understand what type of pressure the photographer is under. Granted, most of us as filmmakers, we're never given a shot list from our couples. We're never given an assignment like, hey, we specifically want you to film this, or we want you to film it this way. Whereas with the photographers, they are often given, the immediate family and the portrait list and things like that. But then they're also held under a different type of pressure from their couples, because these essentially are the prints that they're going to print out and hang on their walls that will be showcased for the rest of their lives. Whereas you can't really print a video, which I wish you could. There's methods out now like the video albums and things like that. But you guys get what I'm saying. The pressure from the photographer's standpoint, understanding that and knowing when you can step in, when you shouldn't step in, and being able to balance that a little bit better is one of the best ways that I've been able to almost connect with any photographer, even if it started out on a rocky situation. Maybe they came into the wedding and they're already frantic and upset. Things aren't going their way or aren't going to plan. It's important as a filmmaker to understand that and to acknowledge that, because once you do know that the photographers are responsible for so much more than just, filming like a fly on the wall, then it makes it more understandable as to why they have a specific system. And I'm not saying that you don't have to have a system, because trust me, I have my own system, but it's able to be, worked around almost any photographer's shooting schedule and things like that. So understanding each person's responsibilities from the filmmaking standpoint. So if you're a photographer and you're watching this video, from the filmmaking standpoint, we typically have a handful of you got to get this shot. Most brides and most couples want that reaction shot when she's walking down the aisle. That's like a given. So having, capturing the partner's reaction as soon as they see their partner walk down the aisle, that's super key, because it's one of those moments that the photo will do great, but seeing that emotion, hearing that audio, I tell this on my consultation calls, that's priceless. And that's one of the main reasons why I love filming weddings, is for these emotions that I'm able to capture that you can't act. You can't tell them to do this again. This is from the heart. However things happen and flow is genuine and real. And so that's, to me, one of the best joys out of filming weddings. So aside of the reaction shots and first dances and first looks, those are the common almost requirements that most couples expect from their filmmakers. And that's pretty much it. Whereas, like I said already, the photographers typically have a much longer list. So if you can understand that, I think that by itself will get you a better footprint when going into filming a wedding, and give you a little bit easier of a, I'm losing the words to say, it'll make things a little bit easier and smoother right off the bat, right out of the gate. Things will be a lot smoother when you understand that. And so this takes me to the next topic. And this is something that, it can be so frustrating, because it's communication, right? You have to have strong communication. And I'm not just talking about with the photographers, but I filmed so many weddings where the wedding planner has they have their list and they have their itinerary, right? Everyone has the same itinerary for the wedding day. And what it honestly is frustrating sometimes when we are running behind, because we as vendors want to plan for when we can eat, when we can take a quick 15-minute break. And if things are running behind, that window where we would be breaking gets shorter and shorter. And it's very frustrating to go 10, 12 hours without eating or without being able to just take a second to collect yourself, right? It's very stressful even for myself. But having strong communication with the vendors, with the photographer and the wedding coordinator and the DJ, a lot of the time I will run into situations where the DJ just starts announcing, all right, guys, we're gonna do our toast. Here's our maid of honor. And I'm not even ready. I don't have my camera on the tripod, or maybe I'm still bringing, media over or something like that. They start these things because the schedule says to start, and they're not communicating and assuring that the media, I say the media as in myself, my second, and the photographer, they're not making sure that we're ready. So having strong communication with everyone on the wedding day, but even more so as a filmmaker to the photographer, because essentially our job is one and the same. We're here to make sure that anything that happens that's significant on this day is remembered forever, whether it's in photo or video form. I think in the beginning, it was very hard for me because when you're new to filming weddings, you have this this nervousness. And even for myself, I've been doing it for 4 years. I still typically go to weddings with some sort of a nervous bug. And then after, I break the ice with the bridal party and kind of get a feel for how things are going, I loosen up. But having this communication can be hard because if you're not vocal and you're not present and your photographer isn't aware that, you need specific things, or that they're getting in the way of certain shots, or that you need to coordinate a specific shot for, maybe your toast or just different things like that. If you're not vocal, it sounds bad, but the photographer essentially would run all over you. And this goes both ways. If you're a new photographer and you're working with a very experienced filmmaker, if you're not vocal, they're gonna assume that you're getting what you're getting and that there is no problem. There is nothing that needs to be established or anything like that. Real quick, just because I know I'm going in pretty deep already, if y'all got questions along the way, I got the live stream thing pulled up here on the TV on the monitor. So feel free to drop some questions, ask anything. If you hear something and you want me to talk about that more, drop questions in there. So let's get back to it. So I have had the privilege of working with, and I think everyone will, you'll have your great photographers and you'll have your photographers who are, I don't like to say bad photographers because it's not that they're bad. It's just that maybe the work environment wasn't the best, right? And not that we walked away hating each other. It just maybe things were, up in the air. It was very, just difficult to get what you need and ensure that they're getting what they need. Because as a filmmaker, I typically don't want to make anyone upset, whether it's the photographer, whether it's the coordinator or whoever. I want to have this communication in the beginning where we establish this role, this basically hey, before I get something significant, I'm gonna ensure that you're there. And if we need to adjust, I'm gonna let you know throughout the day rather than just let you assume that I'm getting what I'm getting, And by adjust, I mean correcting them, but when to correct them. This is another huge topic for me, is that we're all adults at weddings and we're all here to capture the day. If you're talked to in a specific way, especially in front of the bride or groom. This has never happened to me. I've never done it, but I've heard stories where the filmmaker came up to me and said this, from photographers that I've worked with. And so I understand why some photographers start the day with this edge, because they've had poor experiences. And it goes both ways. I've had poor experiences, but I don't take that to the next wedding. But I've heard these stories where photographers or filmmakers are correcting each other and almost arguing in front of the couples. And that just, I come from sales, and one thing that you just never do is you never correct in front of the customer. You never do. Even if I said something completely foul and out of line, my manager would never stop me to correct me in front of that customer. He would, take me to the back and say, listen, Porter, that was foul. You gotta do better, blah, 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 whatever the circumstance was. And I'm saying that to say the same thing. We as filmmakers, and I've been victim of this myself, are guilty of this myself. We want to, establish this sort of, hey, you're in my shot, stop. Oh, you keep getting in the way, you keep doing this, you keep doing that. And it's important to know when to do that and how to do that and how to approach the photographers. You know how to edit the wedding clips at the same time you filming them, or you get to this point at post-productions. Demetrius, I'm not sure, like, honestly, if I understand the question. You know how to edit the wedding clips at the same time you're filming them, or you get to this at post-production? I'm confused. Are you asking if I know, like, how I'm gonna edit the story as I'm filming throughout the day, or are you asking about, like, how I, like, organize the clips in post? I'm a little confused on that, so if you could clarify, I'll try to answer it. So going back to communication, establishing, so the first tip, I guess I could say, is understanding each other's responsibilities. And the second one is communication, is ensuring that you communicate thoroughly to the photographer, and rather earlier than later. You know, I try to establish this relationship and this rapport with my photographers almost immediately when I'm introduced to them. You know, I try to just let them know our film style and how we like to film, and, you know, when we like to, you know, direct, and just different things like that. You said yes the first. Okay, so yes, kind of. Like, I for the most part, I remember, like, all the dope clips that I got from the wedding, but I don't have, like, a way of, like, I don't think about, like, oh, I'm editing it this way, you know. Like, honestly, most of my films, I start typically a week after I've filmed the wedding, just so that all the clips are new to me again, minus the ones that were just like, oh, that was a sick clip, or fire drone clip, or something like that. So yes, I do try to have some sort of system in mind. Like, I remember if it was an emotional wedding, or if it was a very goofy and fun wedding, and that's typically the style that I'll direct the edit in, but I don't have, like, a way, like, I don't have, like, a game plan of, like, okay, I know that I'm gonna be editing it this specific way as I'm filming the clips throughout the day. I don't really, you know, it all just comes down to, like, what was captured and how the overall vibe of the wedding was. Whether was it happy, was it emotional, was it, you know, was the groom and the bride crying the whole day, was it just very, you know, antsy? And that's just how I try to edit the films. So the next topic that I had, talking about working with photographers, and just a little backstory, I really wanted to hop on here live today because of the wedding that I just filmed in Georgia on Saturday. Those photographers were absolutely amazing. I believe it's, I hate to say it wrong, Birdie Fitch Photography, I believe. But the relationship that we started right at the beginning, you know, we were just talking. It was nothing crazy, but she did exactly what I normally do. She told me how she likes to film and what she likes to look for, or how she likes to take photos and what she likes to look for to get those photos. And to me, that was extremely important. What's up, Angelo? Yo, man, you've been killing it. You've been killing it out there. Been seeing them videos, talking about how to work with wedding photographers and just how to build better rapport. That's what we're doing today. So the wedding from Saturday, she came up to me right away and was like, hey, you know, where are you from? I let her know I flew in from San Antonio, and she's, you know, we're just building rapport. And then she's like, hey, you know, so the way that we like to document our weddings is we love the intimate weddings, and we love to try to capture real and organic photos, minus, of course, the family portraits and the things that you have to set them up for. And to me, I was like, oh, that's awesome, because that's our style. I like to film like a fly on the wall. 90% of what we get now is all raw and candid. And then we do like to stage if, you know, there's specific things that we're looking for, like, you know, buttoning of the dress. There's certain things that you do stage that you bring to better lighting, or you bring to a better area, clean up the bridal suite, stuff like that. And so right then and there, I knew, I was like, okay, cool, she's gonna be great to work with. But even throughout the wedding day, they were very, very good at communicating, like, hey, we're gonna go do this. I'll start with these parts, and then you can hop in and get photos of the entire group. Like, for example, when they started doing bridal party portraits, the photographer told me, hey, right after the ceremony, we're gonna do the full wedding party. And she started with the individuals, because I let her know that, hey, I usually only want the full group shots. And so she was like, great, we'll start with individuals. And at that time, I was able to tear down my ceremony setup, transition to the reception, get my lights put up. And almost immediately when I showed up to start filming the bridal party, she had just got to the full group shots. And it was just like the best thing ever, because had she not have told me that, maybe I would have gone with her and then just been hanging out waiting for this group shot or something, you know, similar to that nature. So for me, it was just extremely helpful to have that communication. And I've worked with more photographers that have not had that type of communication than photographers that have. So, and that's not a bad thing. It's just as long as you try to establish it, maybe that's just not their thing. Maybe they're, not good at communicating and giving you like a run by run, play by play. That's perfectly fine. I still do it just so that it lets them know, like, hey, I'm gonna go set up this reception thing, or I'm gonna go set up these lights. Can you come get me before you start the bride and groom portraits, or can you shoot me a text or something of that nature? Hey Valerie, hi from Italy. That's dope. Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know I was getting reached like that. That makes me happy for real. Well, hey to you. Hope everything's going well. I'm not sure what the time difference is there, if it's super early in the morning or late. But either way, thank you for hopping on and saying hi. I appreciate it. So again, communication is the biggest thing that you can have as a filmmaker. It will make 100%. It will make shooting a wedding 10 times easier. And good communication. You don't have to be, and I've worked with so many vendors who just have this natural, I'm going to say strongman macho vibe or whatever you want to call it. And that goes even if they're a woman. They just have this, oh, I'm in charge. I'm leading today. And to me, that's the wrong mentality. Everyone's here to make sure that this couple's wedding day is the best that it can be, whether you're documenting it, whether you're coordinating it, whether you're feeding the people that are coming or serving the drinks, whoever it is, you have a significant role. And so having good communication, respectful communication, whether it's, hey, you keep stepping in my shots. Could you please do me a favor? And right after, maybe we wait about 10 seconds before you walk in. Or could you could just word things differently rather than, hey, you keep getting in my shots. Like, you're really making it hard for me, or blah, 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 blah. That's the wrong way. Because in sales, again, I keep relating to this because I feel like this has really helped me as a better wedding filmmaker. But in sales, when you have a difficult customer, you can't tell them like, yo, you being rude and it's pointless. So other ways and other methods that you would address a customer would be of those sorts. Like, hey, I understand your frustration. If you could, give me a few minutes and I'll get right back to you, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. That's kind of the lingo, right? You got to kind of play those cards. And as long as one of you, if you're the photographer, that's the one that's going to always be, okay, listen, I'm going to be as nice and respectful as possible, blah, 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 blah. Then cool, go with it. That's me by default. Like I just am that way. Like I work out and I look big and intimidating, but I promise you, like I'm a huge teddy bear. Like, my brothers call me soft. It is what it is. Like, I'm not going to deny it, but that's how I am. I am a very friendly person, which is why I enjoy filming weddings. I love filming people have fun. They're like getting drunk and turning up, and like, yeah, who wouldn't find joy in that? That's me. I'm that guy that enjoys doing that. But to make sure things are running smooth, I have to be in good communication with the photographers so that I get all the shots that I need. I don't want to miss out if they're doing sunset portraits. I don't want to be over here eating my dinner and then they've already taken the bride and groom out. I don't want the DJ calling for toast and I'm, still outside, or I'm changing lenses or setting up the camera on the gimbal so that I can do things. I want everyone to be in sync, and it just makes everyone appreciate you even more for being there and appreciate that, okay, you know what? Justin is a really cool, he's a cool guy. His company's cool. Like, I like how they keep letting me know before they do things. I'm gonna make sure I don't start this without letting him know, vice versa. So communication is key. Ben Otto, thank you so much, man. Appreciate the support. I just wanted to hop in here live. I don't know how long you've been here, but I've just, this has been a topic I've been wanting to talk about, and it's honestly working better to just do it live than try to script all this stuff and then, is y'all still getting a connection, or did something weird just happen? Not sure. I don't know. See, I really need to get better at this. Okay, well, I'm gonna assume that it's still running. I don't really. Please use. I have no idea what it's saying about keyframes. So It stopped for a minute, but now it's okay. Okay, dope. Cool. Thank you. So back to it. So how do I de-escalate an unruly photographer or vendor? So let's start with photographers. The biggest thing for me that allowed, even in a difficult situation, was how I film. And before I did all the staging, like I ran around with the gimbal all day, and it's not a bad thing. Like you can still get amazing shots with your gimbal, but I was so focused on the wide shots, right? And trying to capture things that were just whatever the photographer was shooting is what I was shooting. And that by itself, shifting that mindset and filming the things that actually made sense for film and not for photo, like literally having that mindset is what made even working with difficult photographers better, because 9 times out of 10, I'm not filming what they're filming. And the times that I am, it's like first dances, first looks, the bride and groom portraits, things like that. But almost everything else is all those candid in the moment type stuff. So de-escalating a situation is very difficult, but I actually had this as a topic, and it's called when to speak up, and then I put dash respectfully. So basically when to correct. When do you let a photographer know that things are rocky, or how do you even word it? And I've had a photographer in the past, no names, but I've had a photographer in the past where it was so difficult that like on the call home, I was calling my wife and I'm like, babe, like I kid you not, like this was the worst experience I ever had, right? It was one of those situations. But throughout the day, you have to establish, like you have to let the photographer know if they are being, if they're being all about them, right? And what I mean by that is if they're all about the photography and they're not worried about what the videographer has to do, what the videographer has to capture, you have to establish those grounds early. And you typically can pick up on the vibes and how a photographer will be when you first introduce yourself. If they typically seem friendly and have a little bit of communication with you, great. Then you feel a little bit easier. But I've had situations where like, hey, my name's Justin Porter, I'm the videographer. They're like, okay, cool. And they get back to their stuff, like no side chat. So I'm like, okay, this might be a little rocky. So the best advice that I could say, if you're running into a situation where your filmmaker or the photographer is just, being difficult to work with, stepping in front of the cameras, just different things like that, making it all about them, you want to have that communication and just explain to them like, hey, listen, I know you're here to get the shots too, but it's just as important that I get what I need. And if we can work better, it'll make things so much smoother for both of us. And let them know, like give them an example, like, hey, we were doing the first look and, I specifically wanted to have things quiet while they were mic'd. And you continue to speak up and just different things like that. Honestly, it's after the fact, so it's fine. But if we do something, that's more significant, or maybe a first look with the bride and groom's coming up, or the first look with the dad is coming up, if we can just keep quiet for the entire duration until we feel like the moment is pretty much over, then speak up. And so it's just different things like that. You really just it's all about the communication. If you let the photographer or the filmmaker, you just do whatever they're doing and you're not being vocal if it's affecting how you're performing and how you're getting your shots, then they will assume that they're doing everything fine, that there's no issue, that you're getting everything that you need to get. So that's not what you want to do. You want to make sure you are communicating. So say it with me, make sure you're communicating. And then one other side note to Alex's question is I actually had a DJ and a planner. The planner was probably, I would say the planner was the most difficult out of any vendor, because what they kept doing was just going with their timeline. And I remember specifically for the send-off, the photographer and I was still planning and setting up to get ready. Like I was still putting my lights outside. We were still lining up the guests on both sides of the lines. And out of nowhere, the planner starts lighting the sparklers, and the DJ says, like you can hear the speaker, and he's like, let's give it up for our bride and groom. And then they start walking out. Literally, I didn't even have my camera on. I wasn't even holding it. Me and the photographer literally talking, and she just started everything. And it was the most difficult situation I've ever been in. But I wasn't able to address with her ahead of time before that, but I really wish, looking back at it, I really wish I would have talked to her sooner, because the first dances was the same thing. The bride and groom introduction was the same thing. They never spoke to myself or the photographer. They just went with their timeline, and if we weren't ready, we weren't ready. And that's not how you want to do things, because literally we're here until their send-off. Like if it's 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 a.m., who cares? We can't leave until 1 a.m. We're here for them, not for what the schedule says. If the schedule says feed people at 7 and we don't get to feed them till 7:30, you know, like honestly, I get it. We want to be on time, but at the end of the day, we're here till the send-off. So just good communication. That was on me, that situation. If you have good communication, it'll make things so much smoother. You good now, dope. So back to the list. Now I have another one is understanding shooting depths. I can never say that word. Understanding like focal ranges, right? I'm constantly asking the photographer what millimeter they're shooting at, and I observe the camera bodies. For the most part, it's either APS-C, crop sensor, or it's full frame. Most of the photographers I've been filming with are filming with like R6s or R5s, I keep saying filming, but you guys know what I mean. Shooting with R6s, which is full frame. So if they tell me they're on a 50 and I'm on my Blackmagic, for the most part, I'm always shooting at 50. Like I use a 35 lens, so I'm around like that 50 millimeter mark. But the reason I ask this is so that I know like how close I can step in, and I understand more of like that field of view. Most photographers are filming in portrait. Some do film it, or some do shoot in landscape for those wide shots, but they do a lot of portraits, and knowing that as well gets you an even, more insight. Okay, I can film from the sides and get this close without stepping in front of their shots, and just different things like that. So understand what your photographer is shooting with, and if they're going to be wide for a certain part of the day, if they're going to be close, understanding and how to communicate for the ceremony, before the ceremony, where they're going to be standing, what they're going to be shooting, what lens they're going to be using. That way you know like how to position and where to be, so that you're not in their shot, they're not in your shot, you're both able to get exactly the same thing, and it's like flawless, right? Perfect. I think, just kidding, you don't have to go that deep. Oh wait, how do you de-escalate if the photographer is also she's cool, like, oh, you mean in your situation? Well, I mean, you could pretty much just tell like, look, I'm not paying for your nails. Like, you don't let me get my shots, I'm not paying for your nails to get done or whatever. Like, I don't know how y'all do it, but that's tight. Like, me and my wife could never work together. Like, we love each other to death, but at the end of the day, it's like I need my thing, she needs her thing, and it's that we just work better doing our own thing. So I always applaud like the husband and wife duos that going out to these weddings and killing it. I always applaud them because that's crazy to me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be with my wife all day. Like, nah, couldn't do it. That's pretty much all I had. Like, honestly, I just wanted to talk about the communication, and I don't want to make this video like 5 hours long, but I wanted to do it live so that I could specifically talk about those experiences and what makes it smoother for you throughout the wedding day. The only way that I can have as much fun that I do and really enjoy, and that keeps me going back, is to have these vendors that, I understand that will also have my back. If I'm doing something different, they will come get me. They will let me know. They won't start things without communicating with us. And not all vendors get this. Even photographers, even filmmakers, DJs, like I said, I've been through a number of different vendors, and it blows my mind that this is not a normalized thing. This should be something that we are all here for this couple, so let's make sure that we communicate to make this process smoother. And so Justin told me to tell you. So it's just one of those things. You just got to make sure that you communicate. That's like, at the end of the day, that's probably like I can't keep beating the dead horse, but like, communicate with the vendors. My experiences from this weekend, from a few weekends ago, all amazing photographers, but even better was that they were able to communicate with me and at least let me know when they plan to do something. And if I was able to make it to that specific moment, great. If I wasn't because I was doing something else, great. So quick side convo, for anybody that's still sticking around, this is having a system. And I said this in the very beginning, is you really need to understand what your system looks like. And whether you're a filmmaker or a photographer, when you go to a wedding, what's your process? What's your setup time for the ceremony? What's your tear down time for the ceremony? What's your setup look like for the reception? You don't really care about the tear down for the reception because that's the end of the send off. But The reason I'm saying this, what's your setup look like for when you do first looks? What's your setup look like when you do, personal vow readings that are outside of the ceremony? The reason I'm saying this is because I have a system that I know, okay, it takes me about 15 minutes and that's like fast. That's like if I only had a fixed amount of time, 15 minutes to at least set up for my ceremony, make sure everyone's mic'd, and make sure everything's plugged in for my recorders and things like that. If you don't have a system, you'll do what I did. And when I first started filming weddings, I was like always with the bride and groom and the photographer. The photographer would still be shooting, photos or doing something here, and I would still be doing it. And the next thing I knew, I had like 30 seconds to set up for the ceremony because they're getting ready to, they already have everyone lined up and they're getting ready to bring everyone in for the processional. And so I now understand that there's things that are important as a filmmaker, but then it's also just as important to allow yourself time to prepare. Delivery time, a wedding, how many? Got you. Give me 1 second, Demetrius. I'm gonna answer that. I don't want to lose my train of thought. So my system, I've been in several different weddings situations where, the photographer, like 2 weeks ago, we were at Rancho Miranda. Y'all be seeing me post a bunch of content from this wedding because it was like super hype. I love it. And the venue was gorgeous. But the photographer, we did a first look with the bride and her dad, and then a first look with the bride and the bridesmaids, and the photographer went and took the bride and the bridesmaids down to do some portraits. But we had like 25 minutes to set up for the ceremony, and the ceremony was a drive. Like you literally had to drive from where we were to the ceremony site because we were on this huge property. And so I knew like, okay, I told my bride and I told the photographer like, hey, I'm gonna go get set up for the ceremony. It takes us a little bit of time. I'll probably get some group shots with the bride and the bridesmaids after the ceremony, right before you do the full wedding party portraits. And she was perfectly fine with that. Again, communication, but also having a system. Because if I would have went and filmed those shots with the photographer, I wouldn't have had any time to set up for my ceremony. As a filmmaker, we have to plug in for audio, or at least I do. I make sure that I'm plugged into the DJ speaker for backup. I make sure that my groom and my officiant have their mics, which they didn't because, again, we were on this huge property, so the groomsmen were all the way somewhere else getting ready. And we had already got those shots, so I was going to wait until we lined up to put the mics on them. And so this system, having things in place and understanding that I have to be prepared for this, so I have to miss this, but I'll schedule to do shots with the full wedding party at a specific time. And there's been plenty of times where, I don't film the wedding party, not necessarily like staged. I just wait and I get amazing reception footage. Like I would rather, if I had to pick one or the other, I would rather get reception footage of a bridesmaid or the bride and her girls all turning up, having fun at the reception versus a stage shot that everyone sees of the bride and the bridesmaids all laughing. Like, yes, I like those shots. I get them just in case I'm not able to get something later. But again, if I had to pick or choose, I would rather get my reception shots and make those as epic as possible to allow myself time to set up for whatever's coming up versus getting those shots with the bride and bridesmaid. So, Dimitri, this is actually a good topic to talk about too. Delivery time of a wedding and how many weddings do I film a year? So, this has always been something that I get so frustrated when I see is when big timers, right? When I say big timers, I'm talking about the people we all look and research, especially when we're starting out and we watch and we follow photographers and filmmakers and we learn from them. And a lot of the time they all say they have this cap that, oh yeah, we only film 20 weddings a year to prevent burnout, which I understand the whole burnout situation. Or, we only photograph 20 weddings a year. I look at how I'm doing weddings from a business standpoint, right? If, again, this comes from sales. So if Walmart or Amazon decided we're only going to sell $1 million in products this year, like, why would they cap their potential growth? And that's how I look at being a wedding filmmaker, right? I film weddings. I have, a goal for the minimum amount of weddings. And my minimum is 40. Like, I want to film a minimum of 40 weddings a year. Anything past that, I look at as like extra credit, right? Like, oh, these are bonus weddings. We typically average, I think last year, even with COVID, we still pulled out around 50. And then this year, I think because of COVID reschedules and everyone was booking for this year, last year. So I want to say we're somewhere close to like the 70 mark. And I'm still getting some. Like I have 2 that are still on the books for last minute booking for December. So like I'm still getting leads for the remaining of this year. But again, it's not capping that potential growth. I think if you're healthy and you're willing to work, it is a lot of work. Like, trust me, I'd be dead tired after these weddings, but it's my job, you know, like I could be in the oil industry and be dead tired every day. Those guys are out working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and maybe have 2 days off in a 14 or 21 day time span. But we have the luxury as wedding filmmakers and photographers, we typically only work once, maybe twice a weekend. And that's that, you know, we beat ourselves up for 2 days and then we have a week to recover. And that's how I look at it. As long as I'm still healthy and I'm not like overdoing it. This October, this month, I have 9 weddings and I'm super excited about it. There's a lot of amazing new venues that I'm gonna be shooting at, which is very rare because I'm used to filming at the same venues in the area. But again, I don't cap my potential growth. If this year I'm filming 70 and next year I'm filming 80 or 100, whatever it is, I don't want to cap my potential growth because as a business, I'm all about volume and growing, and that's why I'm in business filming weddings, is to make money and be successful. But again, I still enjoy it. So once the fun and the joy from filming weddings, once that starts diminishing, then I'd probably start putting a cap on it, which I'm sure is what most people do. But again, sometimes like I'll say like, okay, I'm gonna take this week off. And then somebody hit me up like, yeah, I want you to film our wedding. And I'm like, well, I was gonna take that week off, but it's whatever, like I'll do it. So that's just how it is. And then delivery time. I think delivery time is huge. So I shoot with Blackmagic cameras now, but even before, I don't like to have media and be responsible for it for like an indefinite amount of time. And so my first return or wedding film return was 21 days. Now it's 45 days, and it's only 45 days because of how many weddings we're filming. We're filming so many now that I need a little extra time to perfectly craft these weddings. I don't want to make it seem like we're cookie cutting, editing these wedding films. I really want to take the same amount of time. But 21 days, sometimes I film 3 weddings in a weekend, and like that's just realistically, like it's hard to do 3 weddings and deliver them all within 3 weeks. So that by itself, now it's 45 days. I'm debating on pushing it to 60 days in 2022, just because, again, the volume that we're getting. But I am in the process of hiring an editor, which is awesome. I think that's one of the things that is another topic that a lot of filmmakers and photographers, we always feel like we have to be 100% hands-on with it. And some part of that is true, but to grow and to keep doing what you're doing, you have to bring on people to help. And so that's a whole topic that we could talk about another day. But yeah, so typically I don't have a cap on wedding films, and I try to return them within 45 days. I don't think it's as important for you to hit your delivery date. Just communicate with the couples, let them know. This past, I want to say May, I had, we filmed like 23 weddings from like April to June 27th. And so I told all those couples, I was like, listen, I know that we're supposed to have these back to you within 40 days, 45 days. I'm asking for a little grace period, close to 60 days. We had a lot of weddings. All of my couples were fine with it. Like, it's as long as you communicate and they don't go wondering like, look, it's been 45 days, where's my film? And then you have to break the bad news. Be upfront with them. I knew that I had a huge amount of weddings coming up and that we were gonna be busy. You gotta have time to recover. You're gonna be tired. And so it's hard to just go in and force out an edit. So I let all my couples know up front, we're gonna be a little bit delayed, and we were good to go. I had 20 weddings. I'm from Greece. Oh, dope, man. Didn't know you're from Greece. That's awesome. All that summer, and I do both photography and videography. I have a team, and I don't know how much time should I deliver. So if you do photo and video, I honestly, I would say, I think personally it only takes 90 days to deliver a client back their film and their photos. I don't know how long it takes to edit photos, but I do know, like, even when I started out doing photography, like my Instagram and YouTube used to be Justin Porter Photography. Even when I did that, I mean, I was still delivering them. You can typically edit, copy and paste a lot of those photos, like the family portraits, are all in the same lighting. So you edit one, copy and paste that color, grade on all of them, and it looks great. I think wedding films typically take a little bit longer to craft out because music takes you like 3 years to find. Mixing the audio, making sure your levels and everything look good. There's a lot more moving parts in the wedding film, but I would say 90 days for, if you have a team that's helping you edit, Demetrius, is it Demetrius or Demetrius? Either way, if you have a team helping you edit, then I would say 90 days for sure. You can assign someone the photo side, someone the video side. And what I'm doing with my editor is that they're doing a rough cut of the wedding film. They send me the DaVinci project file, and then I do all the final touches as far as audio mastering, color grading, all of those final stages I do and then deliver to the client. So I think 90 days is a sweet spot. I think that's, if I was if I was getting married, I wouldn't want to wait longer than 90 days. There's some filmmakers who are like 6 months, and it even is crazy to me because then I look at their wedding films or their frequently asked questions, and they say that they only film 25 weddings a year. I don't think it takes 6 months to edit a wedding film. That's just my personal opinion. Like, it might to some people, but to me, I don't think it takes 6 months. So yeah, 90 days I think would be a sweet time frame, or you can separate it. You can do 90 days for the video and then 180 days for the photos if you end up doing a lot of photos. So it just depends on what you're delivering back, but I think 90 days is reasonable. Yo, Matt, what's up, bro? Will using a 70-200 on a wedding day give me a bigger biceps? Nah, man. So the trick to the big biceps, honestly, it's buying a cinema camera, a heavy cinema camera. So you grab one of these Ursa Mini Pros, or rent you like a C200, C300, slap a 70-200 on there, put a monitor on top, ND filter, matte box, boom. You'll be like, I'm telling you, you'll be like The Rock in about, I give you 60 days. You'll be like The Rock, easy. Thanks for the tips, brother. Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for asking. I appreciate your support. What are some of the great wedding venues in Austin area? My favorite ones in Austin, hands down, Villa Antonia. Now, Villa Antonia is definitely an amazing venue, but it is difficult to shoot at because the spaces are very small. So you do want to prepare for that. The venue itself is amazing, but even like the reception area where they dance on the inside, it's still pretty packed. So if they have a large wedding party, it's hard to maneuver. And I like to be in the action rather than outside of the action. So it's even more difficult getting in there with the camera and trying to be, creative. So you want to prepare for that if you shoot at that wedding. But that venue is like probably my favorite. Looks amazing from the air. Second, I would probably say would be the Preserve on Canyon Lake. Absolutely love that venue. They just built it. It's a newer venue, but it's from the sky. It looks amazing. It looks like it's on its own island, but it has white walls. This is the video I did my behind the scenes on, so check that one out. It has white walls. It has the 5600 Kelvin light bulbs throughout the whole venue. There are a few of the fixtures that have like a orange like covering or sconce or something like that, so it does change the hue. But the color, like the lights in general, look amazing. Tons of natural lighting, like huge windows everywhere throughout the venue. So you get so much sunlight that you really don't even need the lights on. You can cut the lights off and still have perfect exposure and things look great. So that's definitely my second one. The other one would be High Point Estate. I could honestly keep going on. High Point Estate, probably very close to the Preserve on Canyon Lake. Again, it has the white walls. They don't have the white LEDs, but there's so much natural light. It's positioned right. So when the sun sets, I believe it's going down to the east side of the venue. If you're looking at it, it's going down to the east side. Like if you're looking at the venue, it's going down to your right. So I think, yeah. So that venue is amazing. Like there's a handful of them that honestly that I love. And there's still some that I haven't been booked at that I want to shoot at. But yeah, that list, I could go on that one. Do you have two cameras, one for gimbal and one for handheld / tripod, 6K Pro, or do you switch between gimbal and handheld on the same camera? How is being PCC, handheld, and focusing? Tesla. So I have 3 cameras now. I just bought another Pocket 6K, not the Pro, the original version, last week. It just came in the mail last Wednesday. I bought it used off eBay. with like a tilted cage and some other accessories. But I run 3 cameras. Before the 3 cameras, I was running 2 cameras, the Ursa and the 6K Pro. And yeah, my 6K Pro is rigged for the gimbal. So it already has the battery pack. I always keep the follow focus on it. So we set it up in the beginning of the day when we show up to the wedding. And then basically, yeah, I just pop it on the gimbal when I need it and pop it off when I don't need it. One cool thing about the tilt to left handle is that as long as you don't switch lenses or you don't take the focus off of the lens itself, it remembers the in and out points. So when I remount it to the gimbal, I just turn the handle all the way to the right, and then I set my, whatever lens I'm using, I set it to infinity, and then I'm good to go. I don't have to go back in and resync it every single time. So it makes setup and using it back and forth extremely easy. How is being PPCC handheld? It's difficult. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like you basically can't do it, especially if you got on a telephoto lens. There is no IBIS in the camera. And then if you use, even with my 70-200L lens, I wish I had a clip I could show you, but using that on the Pocket for some reason is not nearly as stable as with the Ursa. And I'm not talking about because the Ursa is heavier. Like when I hit record on the Ursa, it can literally hear like a clicking motor sound that like turns the lens on or something. Something happens in the lens. You can hear it like click where it snaps and the image is literally like warp stabilized. But with the Pocket, you hit record, none of that happens. It's stabilized, but it still has like a weird jitter to it. It's crazy. And it could be due to the weight difference, but I don't think that's the case. You definitely want some sort of monopod or a gimbal or something like that just to get rid of those micro jitters. With the Pocket, I now use the IRIX 30mm lens. It just came out a few weeks ago, and hoping to do a review on all their lenses soon. But that lens is now the go-to lens. It stays on the camera the whole day. So that is it for the, what are some of the great, you already answered that. So I think that's it, y'all. We've been on here for a minute. I wanted this to only be like 10 minutes. It's been an hour. So I'm gonna cut this one short. I appreciate everybody that hopped on, that watched, that asked questions. I might do a part 2. There's a couple photographers in Austin. There's a handful of photographers in Austin. No problem, Tesla. Thank you for watching. There's a handful of photographers in Austin that I want to reach out to and see if we can do this video again, where we actually talk about our experiences shooting together, and then we can talk about stories on how to improve your experience. Because I think it's important. I think a lot of photographers have been and filmmaker, even myself, right? We've all worked with a photographer or a filmmaker that just made everything like the worst. It just, I don't like to bash people, but like we've all worked with those photographers or those filmmakers who just really put a sore spot in your heart. And so I think it's important to go into every wedding with a fresh mindset and not with the photographer bet not be this or bet not do that, or the videographer bet not get in my, you don't want to bring that negative energy, because I'm telling you, it just messes everything up. So I think I'm gonna bring on a photographer next time, and we'll do the same thing live, and we'll just kind of chit chat back and forth, talking about our experiences and how to actually make it better, what's important for photo, what's more important for video, how to balance, how to mix well, and how to, plan and prepare and be more of a team, even though we're separate companies, but today we're one company, we're one team, how to be more of a team and make the wedding day just smooth and fluent. So hopefully we can do this again soon. This was, like I said, super impromptu. Do you have any training in the Austin area on the BMPP? Okay, Alex, that's a good question. If y'all still watching, this is actually something that I'm about to launch in it'll probably be like November, early November. I don't want to call it a mentoring program. I think the term mentoring makes me seem like I'm some guru, and I'm not, because I'm still learning. But it is an opportunity for anyone, whether virtually or in person, if you want to do job shadowing. I never charge for job shadowing. So if you ever want to come out and shadow a wedding with me, I always make sure that the couples are okay with it. And then we'll have, a discussion. You're more than welcome to do that. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that. But the mentoring program, or whatever I'm going to call it, is an opportunity. I think it's better than a masterclass. Essentially what it is a live or a virtual consultation call with whoever, with you, and we can talk tips, business strategies. I will be doing like marketing tips and strategies, how to get started with Facebook marketing. That's one of the things that literally took me from making like, booking like 20 weddings to booking almost 80 weddings, and like fast. Like I would spend, maybe $1,000 and the return would be like, 10 times that amount. So it's crazy what you can book for what you can spend as far as wedding ads, but a lot of people don't understand the concept and understand how to do it. So we'll be able to do so much in this like virtual class or this mentor program. You'll be able to book time slots with me in 1, 2, or 3 hour windows. We can set up Dubsado for you, your CRM. We can just basically, my job and what I'm gonna try to do is help you in a more one-on-one personal level, and build your business and just help you and guide you and give you tips and things like that. So there will be a list of what all I'll be offering and what all you can schedule for, even if it's wedding film critique, where we talk about different things throughout your wedding films and try to help you become a better storyteller, whether it's editing or actually shooting, gear recommendations, just so many different things. So be on the lookout for that. I'm in the process of making like a promo video or an announcement video that will be dropped on YouTube and Instagram and all the social media. So that would be pretty sweet. But yeah, other than that, Alex, if you ever have any questions outside of like, if I post a video and you got questions, you can comment on YouTube, or if you have something lengthy, there's a lot of my YouTube followers who message me on Instagram. Feel free to reach out at any point if you got questions, you got anything. I'll try to help. I'm not like a pro with these cameras. I've been filming with them for a while, the Ursa for over a year, and I got the Pocket when it launched. But I'll try my best to help and guide you in the best way that I can. This was such a personable and insightful live stream. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Karen. I appreciate it, man. Like, that's exactly why I wanted to make this video. Just go live, interact a little bit. Again, I think I'm gonna do it with another photographer, and then we'll hopefully get like more of like a podcast-ish. But I think it's good to get a photographer to talk about these same things, because it goes both ways and they can speak from a photography standpoint, and we can kind of ping pong decisions and stuff like that. So, but that is it, y'all. I appreciate everybody that hopped on here and asked questions. So until next time, I'll do that infamous piece. I don't know how to end the live stream. Let me figure that out oh, there it is right there. End stream. Peace. Gotta hit it twice. I knew it was something. All right, thanks for sharing. John just commented that. Knowledge, need more rig videos. Rig videos coming soon. You got it. Peace.